5:30 over at Everbank Field. The Murray trial moves into its final days this coming week. A defense expert challenged the prosecution's contention that an IV drip of the anesthetic drug propofol killed pop star Michael Jackson. The expert says Jackson likely gave himself a fatal combination of pills and propofol without Murray's knowledge. Dr. Paul White, debunked the prosecution's anesthesia expert's theory, saying it would be, quote, an incredible coincidence for the propofol bottle investigators found empty to run dry exactly when Jackson died.
Is this scenario that Dr. Schaefer came up with, would you just describe this as just plain ludicrous?
Again, we've talked earlier about the difficulty in drawing up even 5 cc's. To have a patient who's somewhat sedated under the effects of drugs, drawing up at one time, it may be conceivable. Drawing it up 6 times over that period of time, 2 hours, is inconceivable, yes. He would be knocking himself out, waking up, figuring out how to draw it up again, and then whacking in another 10 cc dose, and he'd probably be asleep before he got all 10 cc's in. So in my world, this is not a very realistic possibility.
Dr. Murray is charged with involuntary manslaughter in connection with Jackson's death. Closing arguments in the case could come as soon as Tuesday in the month-long trial, but much more could be uncovered in the next few days. Attorney at law John Phillips joins us now with a look at this defense, or if the defense is actually going to hold water, plus more on what we can expect come Monday. And good morning, John. Thank you so much for coming on. This was a bombshell. You have a defense witness, a doctor, saying Michael Jackson caused his own death. He was mixing pills in this propofol. Was this a defense strategy all along to try and say, you know, it wasn't as much Dr. Murray as it was Michael Jackson actually dabbling himself?
In every case, doesn't matter whether it's civil or criminal, you're going to see a battle of experts. One expert's going to say one thing, one expert's going to say the other. And in the criminal context, it's all about reasonable doubt. In the civil, it's kind of the greater weight of the evidence. But in this one, you're going to have 2 people saying the same thing, and the jury has to look at credentials and all of that. So it wasn't so much of a bombshell. You knew their expert was going to come with some theory that Michael Jackson caused his own death. Yeah, well, I mean, it's shocking for people to still hear, because everybody has really, I think in the public, in the media, everybody's been looking at this doctor saying, what did this guy do to Michael Jackson? Well, they're saying, well, look, not so fast. Do you think he was convincing from what you've seen? Do you think he was able to sell the defense's theory? He tried. He did a good job. He was credible, and he looked the academic part. It's just, the problem is the bigger picture with the case, with Conrad Murray being paid $150,000 a month to oversee Michael Jackson, and yet, you know, he turns his head and Michael Jackson all of a sudden puts a little more propofol so he can get to sleep, despite the fact he did CPR wrong, despite the fact he didn't call 911, despite the fact all of the other suspicions behind his malpractice, essentially. He didn't sell it all. He sold that one little niche of the case, and that's, I don't think it's good enough. Yeah, when you talk about the 2 experts on each side, the prosecution's witness, their doctor was Dr. Stephen Schaefer, who we might hear from again when we go to back to the prosecution. He said Jackson would have been just too groggy from all the medications that were already in his system to go back there and get more propofol. He called the theory of self-administration crazy. So the question again is, now that it's going to go to the jury in a few days, you know, does the jury get bogged down with, you know, one expert having all this opinion and then this another expert having all these graphs and charts and terms? I mean, is it hard for witnesses to grasp this? When you've got 2 experts that are very close with conflicting opinions, oftentimes it's who's credible, who was more polished, who made the better presentation. And I think the state's expert did a little bit better job with explaining propofol and the ways and means that it gets into the system. By now, this jury already is leaning, and it's whether there was a knockout punch by the defense expert or something they can grasp hold to as a reasonable doubt. I don't know that they did it. What do you expect to see Monday? Monday, I would expect the state to make considerable points with the Michael Jackson, with the expert, and them to try to get it wrapped up, maybe a day or 2 of rebuttal to the jury by Wednesday or Thursday, if the judge, depending on if the judge gives them an extra day to prepare closing arguments. But we pretty much expect it to go to the jury sometime this coming week. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. John, thank you so much. Thank you, Jason. My pleasure. Well, still to come on the morning show this morning, 12 months of waiting and a week of partying, the Florida-Georgia Showdown is finally here. It's been a year. We've got a live report on what police are doing to keep you safe out there all day today and tomorrow, plus more on your wet game day forecast.